everybody, this is the Wikstrand. So my video about, the retrospective view I have of 2023 should probably have come out a week ago, even 10 days ago or something like that. But this is actually the fourth time I have been trying to shoot this damn video, because this damn mic system that I've actually had these ones since 2017. Call it a quits. Around Christmas time, and I actually had to get an entirely new mic system. But you can't grieve forever, because even though these things have seen almost 500 reviews and traveled to all sorts of wonderful and exotic and beautiful locations, such as Kyrgyzstan and United States and the Seychelles and also Finland, it is time to say goodbye now to you all the old friends. But we are going to take a look today of what I thought about was actually a very, very good year. So this is my retrospective look at the year 2023. Right off the bat, 2023 was a very, very good year. In fact, it was the best movie year I've seen since 2017. And many movies that came out this year was, smaller, more, unexpected very good movies, because as always, some of the blockbusters and some of the sequels and prequels and reboots and what have you that came out 2023 wasn't very good, like, Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny, and did anybody actually want to have a fourth Expendables movie and stuff like that? And many, superhero related things was a bit underwhelming, such as, Ant-Man and the Marvels and Aquaman and stuff like that. But none of them were particularly awful. They were just a little bit and just, highlights the fact that we are really living in a superhero fatigue and stuff like that. And we cannot forget the big sleeper hit when it comes to superhero movies, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I had no expectations whatsoever on that movie. In fact, that movie didn't even show up on my, most anticipated movies of 2023, because I was just so certain that it was just going to be another mundane, dull superhero movie. And it wasn't. It was almost like it was 2016 again, and everything Marvel touched was absolutely fantastic. It is my favorite Guardians of the Galaxy movie ever. And in fact, it is the best Marvel movie that has been released since Infinity War. Yes, it is the best comic book movie that has been made since Infinity War. How crazy is that? But there was also a bunch of very, very, very good movies that I didn't, expect that was going to be as good as it was when, the year started. The Creator was a fantastic movie. The Killer by David Fincher was absolutely amazing. And we also had a bunch of very good Indian movies that was released that I think is probably going to be some of my favorites from this year. Tiger 3, and Pathaan and Jawan was very, very good, especially Jawan, which is actually probably my favorite Indian movie outside of, the South Indian movies. Probably the best Bollywood movie I've ever seen, actually. I loved that movie so much. And also, let's not forget that two of my favorite directors made brand new movies 2023, Martin Scorsese and Ridley Scott. And I will say this, that when I found out that Napoleon actually was going to be released in 2023 rather than 2024, I was like, oh my god, what a year 2023 was going to be. Because the combination of Ridley Scott, Napoleon and Joaquin Phoenix should be one of the greatest movies of the decade. It wasn't. It was a very good movie. Because they tried to basically squeeze in 15 hours of plot into a 2.5 hour movie, because Napoleon did so much stuff during his life that you can basically make almost, small bits and pieces of his life into a 2.5 hour movie. They tried to cram in too much stuff into this thing, and it didn't work because of it. It was not a bad movie, but considering who is doing it and who is acting in it, it still was a little bit, I don't know. When it came to, Killers of the Moonflowers, it was a very good movie, but it was damn too long and a little bit miscasted if you ask me. Even though DiCaprio and De Niro are so good, they are a little bit miscasted in this one, and I thought that the focus should have been on other things than, they ultimately decided to do. And I respect Scorsese for doing what he did, but this was still not as good as, Scorsese's best movies, but both of those movies was actually very good, and I'm very glad that they were released. I'm a little bit sad that they didn't make more of an impact at the box office, but still it was a fun thing to see in 2023. But the question is, how good was I to predict how this year was going to be? In the beginning of 2023, I released a video where I guessed how the 10 best movies that was going to come out this year was going to be, and let's see how good I was at predicting how good they were, shall we? Number 10, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Success! Now, before this movie was released, my favorite movie that included Spider-Man as a main character was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse that came out. Was it 2018? I think it was 2018. Anyway, I was looking forward to this movie and I thought it was going to be absolutely epic, and it was. I love this movie so much. It had so much creativity to itself. It had so much joy to itself. And it had so much energy to itself. And it was just this extremely creative, very, very self-aware and very, very cool and slick movie. 134 minutes just vanishes, whoosh, and it was all gone. And it builds up very nicely for what could potentially be an almost perfect superhero trilogy, if the final movie delivers major big time. My only problem with this movie is probably the fact that I don't really like Miles Morales as a main character. He's a little bit uninteresting. I don't know why. The fact is that I've actually never really liked any of the main characters in any of the Spider-Man movies, because I mainly like him more as a side character rather than the main character. In this movie, I was more invested with, Spider-Gwen's story rather than what's going to happen to Miles Morales. It was just in the, final 10 minutes that I thought, ooh, this is kind of awesome. But as a whole, this is the best Spider-Man movie I've seen so far. I think this movie is absolutely amazing. Number 9, Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, so the question before this movie was released was, how much better was it going to be than the 2000 version with Jeremy Irons and Tora Bridge? The answer is, of course, a lot better. But how much better? I think this movie was very, very, very good. It felt almost like a Guardians of the Galaxy, but set in a fantasy setting, and it had colorful characters, it had some pretty good action, it had some pretty fun moments, and it had some, fun, unexpectedly humoristic situations, which I thought was very good. And of course we had Hugh Grant stealing the show as another likable asshole who somehow was so likable that no matter how big of an asshole he was, you still didn't want him to lose. You still kind of wanted him to sort of win, but it was a very good fantasy movie, even though I can sometimes fantasize about having that fantastic, very, very R-rated, Conan-esque fantasy movie filled with gore and monsters and blood and stuff like that, but we're probably never going to get that. We're going to maybe get these, PG-13 fantasy movies, and that's fine, because this was so entertaining that I'm actually more in favor of waiting, every 2 years to get, another installment in this thing, rather than, just seeing all of these mundane, kind of boring superhero movies 3-4 times a year. But this was a lot of fun. Not quite as good as I hoped it would be, but kind of almost. Number 8, A Quiet Place spin-off was not released. So I don't know if this movie technically was released, because was the movie 65 a sort of spin-off to A Quiet Place, I don't know, because you know, a lot of people that worked on that movie worked on, you know, the movie 65. But I don't think we got an official, you know, spin-off to that movie. I'm not as high on, you know, an spin-off this year as I was, you know, last year. But I still think that, because the thing I want is mainly a conclusion to the two Quiet Place movies that has already been made, and I really hope that they can do that next year or maybe 2025. I don't know. I just hope that they will do that and not, you know, leave it at just two movies. Number 7, Extraction 2. Okay. So I really loved Extraction. I thought it was a very fun, very visceral and very entertaining action movie. But I thought, you're never going to do a sequel to this one because, you know, Chris Hemsworth is super dead, but apparently is not quite as super dead as he is, but because, you know, they rescue him from that, you know, river in Bangladesh, and now he's, you know, healing, and there's another mission for him, and they essentially do another movie where he has to, you know, get somebody and protect some kind of kid and, you know, deliver a bunch of ass whooping. And it was almost as good as the first one. It was on the verge of actually being even better, but then they kind of settled in for a more traditional action romp, which wasn't as fun as it had been up until that point, because there was a point where this movie actually was kind of a anti-Die Hard, which I really like. That's, you know, when they fight in the building in Austria. If they would have, you know, done that as, you know, the whole movie's finale, I think this movie could have been as cool as ever. But then it sort of descended into more traditional things that we have seen before, and what kind of was better. But it was still a very fun and very eventful and very entertaining action movie. It just wasn't quite as good as the last time. Number 6, Knock at the Cabin. Failure. Okay, M. Night Shyamalan, I'm officially kind of done with you now, because sometimes when you go and see a Shyamalan movie, you don't quite know what you're going to get. Are you going to get the, you know, kind of sort of cool movie with the awesome twist, but still has a lot of flaws to it, but it's still so memorable that you kind of has to see it again and again and again just to relive those, you know, awfully awesome moments? Or are you going to get something that it is so compellingly awful, like, you know, The Happening or Lady in the Water, that you still kind of think that the movie is kind of genius because it is so conkers badonkers? But this movie was just kind of boring. It had a lot of very good actors doing a lot of very good acting in order to try to, you know, bring these characters to life. But I was never engaged in the whole thing, and I thought it was so ridiculous that I thought, you're going to have to, you know, work really hard here, Shyamalan, to get me to think that this movie is better than Old. And it is better than Old, but it's just barely better than Old. It didn't have a good twist, and in the end, I didn't really care about the whole thing. The thing I cared maybe the most about was the fact that they used the old late 80s, early 90s Universal logo. Why? I don't know. They also, you know, used a lot of, you know, classical 90s lighting techniques and lenses and stuff like that to give this movie kind of a timeless feel to itself, and bravo for that. But that was the only thing that made me a little bit, curious. Otherwise, this movie was a bit of a snooze fest, and because this movie isn't, you know, written by Shyamalan, because he has written it with other people, the entertainingly bad, awful Shyamalan dialogue is here, but it's also accompanied by a lot of other things that is just a bit bland. I don't know, this was just a bit uninteresting and uninspiring. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. Number 5, Operation Fortune. Success. God damn it, Guy Ritchie, you are really on a roll right now. The Covenant, Gentleman, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. He has done a bunch of very, very, very good movies as of lately, and I think this is maybe one of his most fun movies that he has ever done. It is 120 of the most easily digestible minutes that you will ever see, ever. Unfortunately, this was a huge flop, but on the other hand, A flop you get to keep for yourself. If it would have been a success, then it would have been endless and watered down sequels to this one. So I don't know. The thing is that this was a lot of fun, and once again, Hugh Grant steals the show by being a likable asshole, and we have a lot of fun, interesting characters, and we have a bunch of entertaining, tense moments, and also the best performance Josh Hartnett has done since Lucky Number 11, so it has that going on for itself. So wasn't that a lot of fun, kids? So if you've never seen that movie, I do recommend this thing, because this is a lot of fun. It's a lot of, you know, cool action, adventure comedy kind of a thing. And if that is sort of your wheelhouse, it is absolutely great. And Jason Statham is, you know, his classical Jason Statham thing. And if you like that, you will love that movie. I think that Operation Fortune was a lot of fun. And I really hope that this doesn't derail his directorial career or anything like that. And that he will just continue to make awesome movies for us to watch. Number 4, John Wick Chapter 4, Success. This is a movie that is nearly 3 hours long and consists mostly of a silent Keanu Reeves shooting people in the head. And it goes on for nearly 3 hours. 3 hours. And somehow they are able to make that fun, dynamic, and not at all tiresome. There is just so much creativity in this movie. It's just so much entertainment, and Bill Skarsgård is such a fun and entertaining villain, and the end at Sacré-Cœur was absolutely boss. I love this movie so much. There is a lot of people that's probably going to get tired of Keanu Reeves' shtick, you know, after an hour or even maybe 45 minutes, but I never got tired of it. I just love this very slick, very cool, very awesome action movie. Is it the best action movie of the year? I think so. Number 3, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, Success. This might be recency bias, but before I, you know, rewatch this movie for the purpose of, you know, figuring out whether or not I'm correct about this or not, this is the best movie that has been released this decade. I think that the Mission Impossible franchise is the best and most reliable movie franchise ever. The worst movie they have ever done, which is Mission Impossible 3 that came out in 2006, is still a very good movie. The rest of them ranges from absolutely fantastic to absolute masterpiece, and this is the crowning moment. This movie is so much fun. 2 hours and 45 minutes just vanishes from the face of the earth. So much fun and so much spectacular action sequences, so many colorful characters, so many interesting character arcs we're going through, and the story about, you know, Ethan Hunt fighting against his AI was so much more interesting than I thought it was going to be. And this movie ends in a gigantic cliffhanger after the fact that, you know, Tom Cruise does his enormously ridiculously cool stunt when he jumps off that cliff in Austria. It is absolutely spellbindingly gorgeous. I am so hyped for, you know, the sequel that is hopefully going to end this Mission Impossible saga and, you know, end it in a nice way that will, you know, tie everything up in a nice little bow tie, and hopefully after that we will never have a single Mission Impossible movie ever again. But I will be happy by the fact that we have had so many great and amazing movies. Maybe the fact that, you know, this wasn't a huge hit at the box office will derail the whole thing, and they will somehow, you know, find a way to undo the whole thing. But I'm keeping my hopes high. But I hope so much, maybe I'm just smoking the hopium here, that the conclusion to this one will be maybe the greatest action thriller that has ever been made. I hope I'm correct about that, but probably it's not going to be quite as good, but one can always hope, can we? Number 2, Oppenheimer. Success. So, think about this for a second. Is Oppenheimer the best a biopic that has been done since the movie Gandhi in 1984? I am bound to say yes. I think that this is a fantastic biopic. But the question is, wouldn't I rather have had something like this? That some dude like Mark Webb or maybe Ridley Scott or, you know, some guy could have made the movie about Oppenheimer. And at the same time as that movie is being made, then we could have had Christopher Nolan making another complicated sci-fi thriller or anything like that, you know, kind of a steampunk thing, maybe with, you know, some detective running around trying to figure out, you know, some kind of a murderer who, I don't know, time travels or anything like that. And we could have had, you know, basically the same actors in a movie with, you know, a fourth of the budget, delivering a movie that was so good that you would totally forget the whole thing about Oppenheimer and say that, well, that was a pretty good, you know, Wikipedia type of a biopic. But this new movie that, you know, Nolan has done just has so much imagination to itself, and my god, that twist in the end, and my god, that visual storytelling. Because don't get me wrong, Oppenheimer was absolutely fantastic, but I still don't think it is one of Nolan's best movies. I don't even think that it is, you know, on the upper half of Nolan's best movies. I think it is a fantastic movie that unfortunately is not as good as his, you know, Batman movies, or for that matter, you know, Tenet or The Prestige or Memento or Inception or anything like that. I just think that it was a little bit of a waste of a good Nolan movie. I know I'm probably in the minority of this, but because personally, my biggest stake in Oppenheimer was the fact that I really hoped that it would be a huge hit at the box office, because if it was a huge hit at the box office, then Nolan would be free to do something even greater in the years to come. Maybe 2026 or something like that. We will have another fantastic big budget original sci-fi thriller that will blow our absolute socks away, and not him doing a fucking Star Wars movie or a James Bond movie or a Star Trek movie or whatever. I don't want him to do another movie from, you know, some known IP or anything like that. I want him to do an original movie. And maybe because this was such a huge hit, which, you know, Oppenheimer was helped by Barbie. I think Barbenheimer probably was one of the best marketing strategy ever, and it was, you know, all by accident. I think that both movies helped each other, but Barbie probably helped Oppenheimer even more to make that movie a big hit at the box office. And because this was a huge hit at the box office, then hopefully this will help Nolan delivering another masterpiece in the years to come, but we shall see. And number one, Dune Part 2, was not released. So I loved Dune so much, and I had such high hopes for this one because of, you know, the actor strikes and stuff like that. It was never released and has been, you know, been pushed forward to 2024. Am I sad about that? Yeah, maybe a little. But the fact is that so many fantastic movies was released in 2023 that I'm not so sad that, you know, this movie had to be bumped to next year. But I think that this will be almost as good or maybe even better than the first movie, which I thought was fantastic. And I hope that we will get, you know, more of the mythological things. And I hope that they will do, you know, the confrontation with the Emperor sequences and stuff like that. And maybe we can look back at what is appearing to be a kind of a trilogy of Dune movies as a perfect sci-fi trilogy. I'm just so pumped for it for 2024, so I will look forward to that. So which movies did you think was the best from 2023? Comment below and I'll see you next time from, well, so-and-so reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.